Joining me now is retired four-star General Jack Keane, a Fox senior strategic analyst. General, it's always great to see you. So essentially, what we've been discussing over the course of the last 2 months or so has come to pass, right? You saw Russia invade Ukraine. It's changed its strategy. Now it's focusing back. It wasn't retreating. It was just, shifting and taking a moment to change the strategy, go back to the east. And that's what we're seeing at this point. Your thoughts on how this is all playing out with respect to the way that the United States, what we discuss on the air is different, but the way our government has approached this, the way it thought it would play out.
Yeah, well, first of all, the Institute for Study of War, which I'm associated with, is confirming that Russia has begun this second offensive in the Donbas area, which President Zelensky certainly alerted everyone to today. And the characteristic of this offensive is actually starting out much like it did in the Kyiv area. Russian forces are road-bound. They're single file. They're conducting piecemeal attacks in the northwestern part of Luhansk, which is part of the Donbas region. It is not the kind of armor formations that we would normally see of a well-trained force. The terrain there is flat and open, and it's very conducive to conducting that kind of an assault. If they continue to conduct operations as they have started, Jackie, this will play into the hands of the Ukrainians. And also, in the last 24 hours, the Ukrainians have managed to conduct a fairly significant counterattack southeast of Kharkiv, and took back a number of towns and cut off one of the major routes. We call them lines of communication that the Russians are using to move south to the Donbas area. Now, that doesn't shut it off entirely, because there is another road that they can use. But nonetheless, it just shows you the aggressiveness of the Ukrainians and the imagination that they have in terms of how they use their operational forces. They are anything but static. And they attack during the day and they attack at night. So this is the beginning of a very serious engagement. The casualties are likely going to be high on both sides. And certainly the Russians have more forces by far in this offensive that they're launching. But nonetheless, the skill and will of the Ukrainians can not be underestimated, and certainly their determination and resolve to fight for their loved ones and for their country is certainly been in evidence now for 50 plus days.
General, the administration says that Russia is losing the war, but yet Russia doesn't seem to be giving up, and it's debatable whether, depending on who you talk to, whether they are actually losing or not. As this is dragging on, you've got the Ukrainian President Zelensky now warning that the world to, quote, be ready for potential nuclear threats from Vladimir Putin. Listen to this.
All the countries have to be warned, because you know that it can be not real information, but it can be truth. Because when they begin to speak about one or another battles or involve enemies or nuclear weapons or some chemical, don't be afraid, be ready. But that is not the question to Ukraine, and not only for the Ukraine, for all the world. I think so.
So President Zelensky is obviously concerned. He's expressing his concern there, and also, the Russians have been ruthless in the way they've approached this. Your thoughts on what could happen here?
Well, first of all, I don't have any problem with President Zelensky mentioning that the potential catastrophe of Russia using nuclear weapons. Certainly, that's in the back of his mind. But the evidence, Russia has done nothing to change the status of their strategic nuclear forces or done anything to move their tactical nuclear capability, which in storage sites inside of Russia, and we know where they are. So there's been no change in any of that, despite the rhetoric, certainly, that quite irresponsibly, I think, President Putin was using early on in the conflict. He hasn't been using that rhetoric recently. I think President Zelensky just wants to remind people that that threat is out there, and he wants to remind those who are his supporters and now finally getting him the kind of weapons he's been asking for the last 2 weeks, that they don't give up on anything, that they keep that flow of these heavy weapons and more sophisticated weapons coming his way, because they are in a very critical fight over the next few weeks.
That makes a lot of sense. We always appreciate your insight and your perspective and breaking it down for us. General Jack Keane, great to see you. Thank you.